Dr. Zyx'vak adjusted their 4 optical stalks while reviewing the latest batch of specimen data on Nexus 7's most sophisticated research terminal. The space station xenobiology lab, a marvel of galactic engineering, housed the most dangerous creatures this arm of the galaxy had to offer. Well, most of them anyway. Another fascinating day cataloging death incarnate, they muttered, mandibles clicking in what passed for their species' version of a sigh. The holo displays surrounding their workstation flickered with images of razor-toothed monstrosities and acid-spitting horrors from a dozen different Deathworlds. The station's AI chimed in with its usual monotone reminder: diplomatic delegation from Earth arriving in Docking Bay 4 in approximately 3.2 minutes. Wonderful, Zyx'vak chittered sarcastically. Because what my day really needed was a meeting with beings who evolved on a planet that actively tries to murder them, they began shutting down their terminals, optical stalks swiveling independently to ensure they hadn't missed any important notes. The human delegation was right on time, another terrifying trait of Deathworlders, their ability to be punctual despite evolving on a planet with unpredictable day-night cycles. Leading the group was Chen, Earth's newest diplomatic representative to the Galactic Council. Zyx'vak's upper optical stalks froze mid-swivel. Following close behind the human was something small, furry, and moving with a grace that sent shivers down all 3 of their spinal columns. Dr. Zyx'vak beamed, extending a hand in what Zyx'vak had learned was a traditional Earth greeting rather than a prelude to combat. I hope you don't mind, but I brought along my companion. The journey from Earth is long, and station regulations now permit Earth pets in diplomatic quarters. The creature in question sat down, curled its tail around itself, and fixed Zyx'vak with golden eyes that seemed to stare directly into their soul, assuming their species had one, which was still a matter of theological debate. That's as Zyx'vak's vocabulary translator glitched as they tried to find the right words. "Oh, this is Mittens," Kai said casually, as if they hadn't just brought an unclassified entity onto a high-security research station. "She's a cat." Mittens yawned, displaying a set of teeth that, while small by Deathworld standards, made Zyx'vak's hemolymph run cold. "Ow." Delightful, they managed to say, while simultaneously sending an urgent message to their research team: "Clear my schedule. We have a new specimen to study." The news of Mittens' arrival spread through Nexus 7 faster than a quantum entanglement breach. Within hours, Dr. Zyx'vak's inbox was flooded with messages from fellow researchers, each demanding to know how a Class 4 predator had gotten past station security. "But it's not a predator," Kai insisted during their 3rd impromptu meeting of the day. "She's a domesticated house cat. She eats specially formulated nutrition pellets and sleeps 18 hours a day." Zyx'vak's optical stalks twisted in disbelief as they reviewed the security footage. The creature Mittens was currently curled up in a patch of artificial sunlight in the diplomatic quarters, looking about as threatening as a malfunctioning cleaning drone. "Then explain these," they demanded, pulling up an anatomical scan. Retractable claws, night vision capabilities, enhanced reflexes, and a bite force that could snap through standard power cables. "Well, yes," Kai admitted, scratching their head. "They kept those features through domestication. But seriously, look at her. She's wearing a bell collar with little fish on it." In the station's central promenade, reactions to Mittens varied wildly. The gaseous flotations simply drifted higher whenever she passed beneath them. The crystalline shard folk vibrated at frequencies that Zyx'vak's instruments interpreted as either extreme terror or overwhelming desire to engage in commerce. The hive-minded Shital collectively decided to take a different corridor entirely. Station Security Chief Bloop Brar P, who, despite their intimidating title, resembled nothing so much as a sentient blue pudding, called an emergency meeting. "We have protocols," they burbled anxiously, surface rippling with stress patterns. "Protocols for everything. But nowhere do we have protocols for a Deathworlder's pet." "Perhaps," suggested Sub-Administrator Peak, their eye stalks nervously intertwined, "we should classify it as a support predator. Like the therapeutic murder beasts of Rigel 7. It used the litter box exactly as trained, Kai pointed out helpfully. That's got to count for something. The meeting dissolved into chaos when Mittens somehow got into the ventilation system. 3 different species declared it a religious holiday, and the station's AI began composing what it called preemptive obituaries. Security footage tracked Mittens as she explored the station's infrastructure with casual indifference to the panic she was causing. She batted at floating maintenance drones. She stretched out on warm power conduits. She left fur on critical sensor arrays. Fascinating, Dr. Zyx'vak muttered, watching Mittens delicately groom herself on top of a quantum computer. The perfect predator, masquerading as a companion species. But what's its true purpose? What's its grand design? She just likes high places, Kai explained, reaching up to retrieve her. Mittens responded with a sound that the universal translators rendered as both affectionate greeting and death threat, depending on the species interpreting it. The situation reached a new level of absurdity when a delegation of arachnid philosophers requested an audience with what they called the small guardian of human souls. They had apparently concluded that humans, being such terrifying Deathworlders themselves, must have even more terrifying creatures to watch over their spiritual well-being. No. Look, Kai tried explaining to the gathered officials, while Mittens played with a string dangling from their uniform. Humans domesticated cats thousands of years ago. They help keep pests away from our food storage, provide companionship, and... Aha, Dr. Zyx'vak's optical stalks all snapped to attention. So they are weapons, biological pest control units. That's not what I... Oh, never mind, Kai sighed as Mittens rolled onto her back, paws in the air, asking for belly rubs, a gesture that caused 3 security officers to dive for cover. The station's AI updated its threat assessment matrices 8 times that day, eventually creating an entirely new category labeled paradoxically harmless terror, with Mittens as its sole occupant. The first reports of missing equipment from the lower storage decks didn't raise any alarms. Space stations were complex environments. Things went missing, turned up in odd places, or occasionally achieved spontaneous sentience and had to be diplomatically recognized as sovereign nations. But then came the bite marks. These aren't normal bite patterns, Dr. Zyx'vak announced, examining the damaged power conduits. They're from Rattus stellaris space rats. Nasty creatures that evolved in the cargo holds of early colony ships. They can chew through almost anything and reproduce faster than bureaucratic paperwork. Security Chief Bloop Barap's surface rippled with distress patterns. But our containment fields have more holes than a Svedgian cheese trader's alibi. Zyx'vak finished. Look at these readings. They're everywhere in the lower decks, and they're moving up. Meanwhile, Mittens had developed an unusual interest in the ventilation shafts. Her ears would perk up at odd hours, and she'd stare intently at seemingly solid walls. Kai noticed but didn't think much of it. Cats were weird. That was part of their charm. The station's governing council called an emergency session when the rats reached the hydroponics level. Representatives from 17 species argued about proper containment procedures while their food supplies dwindled. We must initiate quarantine protocols, demanded Ambassador GLX of the Silicon Collective, their crystalline form vibrating with anxiety. Seal off the affected decks. Those decks contained critical life support systems, Kai pointed out. We can't just... Typical Deathworlder response, squeaked Representative Pix, their tentacles waving in agitation. Always worried about surviving and not suffocating. The council's attention shifted when Mittens, who had somehow gotten into the chamber, despite triple-sealed doors, began pawing at a seemingly solid wall panel. Before anyone could stop her, she'd managed to pop it open, revealing a nest of space rats. The resulting chaos would later be described in official reports as a diplomatic incident involving multiple species' involuntary defense mechanisms. The gelatinous delegation had to be scraped off the ceiling. This is exactly why we need stricter pet regulations, Bloop Barbie burbled, while maintenance drones attempted to clean up the various substances that multiple species had involuntarily excreted in their panic. But Dr. Zyx'vak's optical stalks were focused on something else. Mittens wasn't just playing, she was hunting. And judging by the way she tracked the rats' movements, she was very, very good at it. Fascinating, they muttered, updating their research notes. The perfect predator, disguised as a companion, revealing its true nature only when its territory is threatened. Humans truly are diabolical. She's just being a cat, Kai sighed, but nobody was listening anymore. Half the council was demanding immediate quarantine measures. The other half was trying to hire Mittens as a security consultant, and somewhere in the ventilation system, the space rats were multiplying. The situation reached critical mass when the rats chewed through the main power coupling to the diplomatic sector. As emergency lighting bathed the corridors in an ominous red glow, Mittens sat in Kai's quarters, tail twitching, eyes fixed on the shadows. She didn't have long to wait. The station's systems failed in cascading waves. First life support stuttered, then artificial gravity fluctuated, and finally the main computer core started speaking in limericks, a sure sign of critical system failure. Evacuation protocols, Chief Bloop Brarp's surface was practically boiling with stress patterns. All non-essential personnel to emergency pods. Dr. Zyx'vak's optical stalks whirred as they monitored the situation from their lab. The space rats had breached the main power conduits, and now they were heading straight for the antimatter containment fields they broadcast on all frequencies. They're going to chew through the shielding. That's when Mittens made her move. The security cameras caught it all, though later, many species would request the footage be deleted for the sake of their mental health. The small creature that had spent weeks being dismissed as a harmless pet transformed into something else entirely. Her pupils dilated to pure black. Her muscles, hidden beneath that deceptively soft fur, coiled with predatory precision. The bell on her collar gave one final, cheerful ting before she vanished into the shadows. "What's happening?" demanded Ambassador GLX as the emergency council gathered in the station's core. "Our sensors can't track." A space rat, easily the size of a small hover cart, came flying through the air, landing in the middle of the council table. It was very obviously no longer among the living. Mittens appeared on top of a data terminal, casually licking one paw. The universal translators struggled to interpret her seemingly innocent meow. The closest they could manage was "First blood has been drawn. The hunt begins." What followed was 20 minutes that would be permanently redacted from most official records. Mittens moved through the station's infrastructure like a ghost, appearing and disappearing at will. Space rats twice her size fled in terror, only to find themselves cornered in precisely the places she had herded them. Incredible. Dr. Zyx'vak was recording everything, all 4 optical stalks wide with scientific excitement, the efficiency, the calculated violence, the sheer predatory perfection. The assembled aliens watched in horror and fascination as Mittens demonstrated exactly why cats had been revered as gods in ancient human civilizations. She didn't just hunt, she played with her prey, turning the extermination of a dangerous infestation into a form of performance art. Is this normal?" asked Representative Pix, their tentacles curled tightly around themselves. "Oh yeah," Kai replied casually, watching Mittens corner another group of rats. "Though usually she just brings me socks from the laundry." The space rats, realizing they faced something far deadlier than themselves, attempted to flee en masse toward the cargo bays. Mittens, however, had anticipated this. She appeared above them, a small silhouette backlit by emergency lighting, and what happened next would later be described in official reports as tactically deployed chaos with extreme prejudice. When it was over, Mittens sat in the middle of the council chamber, surrounded by her vanquished foes, grooming herself as if nothing unusual had happened. The station's AI, which had been keeping count, reported that she had eliminated exactly 42 space rats in under half an hour. "I think," Dr. Zyx'vak said into the stunned silence, "we may need to revise our understanding of the term pet.te in the aftermath of what station records would call the Great Rat Incident. Nexus 7 underwent some significant changes. The most obvious was the new plaque in the main concourse that read this station protected by Mittens with a small hologram of a sleeping cat below it. Dr. Zyx'vak published their groundbreaking paper Deathworlder Companion Predators: The Ultimate Paradox. The abstract began in attempting to understand humanity's relationship with pets. We have fundamentally misunderstood the nature of predation itself. These creatures are not tamed, they have merely agreed to a mutually beneficial arrangement that occasionally involves belly rubs. Security Chief Bloop Brarp implemented new station regulations, including the controversial Mittens Protocol, which classified Earth pets as auxiliary security assets with fuzzy benefits. The protocol included such notable provisions as: all station quarters must include at least one sunny spot for napping. string-based toys are now classified as tactical equipment. The term here, kitty kitty, is officially recognized as a call for backup. Cardboard boxes are to be treated as potential pet deployment devices. Kai found themselves promoted to senior diplomatic advisor, though whether this was due to their handling of the crisis or because everyone was terrified of offending Mittens' human remained unclear. As for Mittens herself, she returned to her daily routine of sleeping, eating, and looking majestic, though now she did so with the added gravitas of a recognized station hero. The arachnid philosophers were finally convinced that she wasn't a spiritual guardian after all, but rather a tiny god of chaos who had chosen to live among mortals for her own inscrutable reasons. "I still don't understand," Dr. Zyx'vak admitted to Kai one day, watching Mittens chase a beam of light from a passing starship. "How can something be simultaneously so lethal and so adorable?" "That's cats for you," Kai replied, scratching Mittens behind the ears as she purred loud enough to trigger the station's vibration sensors. The only thing more dangerous than a Deathworlder is a Deathworlder's pet, especially when they want dinner and you're 5 minutes late. The station's AI, meanwhile, updated its threat assessment one final time, creating a new category exclusively for Earth pets handled with treats and respect.